my Crafty Mavens. Welcome to the Crafty Maven Getaway Podcast. This is episode 20, and this is your host, Hannah. Thank you for coming in today. And today we are continuing our creative identity series, and we are getting towards the ends of it, I think, but I'm not quite sure. So today I want to talk about how to create an atmosphere in which you can play and grow and within still being yourself. So we've talked a lot about things that kind of get in the way, things that really help us learn about ourselves, and things to think about throughout this process of what do I love the most about being at my desk? What are the things that make me happy? What is it that I'm falling in love with? What is my reason why? So we've talked and went through a lot of these different aspects of things. And today we're going to talk about finding freedom within your own style by just playing. So this is going to be kind of a two-parter, but we're not doing the second part next week. I just want to put that out there. So, but we will be going over this a little bit more because I want to talk more about the messy aspect of things, but I also want to talk about other ways that we can play and grow and learn, right? So we've kind of talked a lot about more the therapy part of it, really digging in, but let's talk about the practical things. What are questions and things that we can think about that we can actually do and put all of this stuff into motion, right? Because it's something to think about it. In therapy, there's these different levels of exploration and understanding within your own self, right? So when you're going through something, sometimes you'll feel like you won't even notice something's off, but then maybe you'll feel something's off. And then all of a sudden you might feel this one little thing that kind of gives you this understanding of, oh, I know what the problem is, but I'm not going to do anything. And then it's researching this problem or thinking about this problem solving about this problem, but you're still not ready to do anything about it. And then the next step from there is, oh, I'm ready to jump off. I'm going to do something about this problem, this thing that I feel. Right? So this is kind of this journey that we're going through in our creative identity, right? So we're kind of pinpointing, at first, maybe we just don't know what our creative identity or style is because we are artists though, right? And we have value in our craft room just as much as outside of our craft room. And I want you to feel that. So there's this understanding of okay, so now I know that I have value, that I have different preferences. I have different goals, right? And then the next step is how can we get there? I want to start researching. I want to start thinking about this more because I want to put this into practice. Maybe we're not putting it into practice yet, but we need to kind of talk about it more, right? So I want you to know that throughout our process, throughout our journey of paper crafting, art, right, there's different seasons and there's different times in which we are gonna grow and play more, and there's other times where we're gonna kind of settle into who we are and we're just gonna do it, right? And this is part of the fun part, right? But as we're growing, we should be challenging ourselves to do more, right? And it doesn't have to be this big grandiose thing, right? But there is something cool about implementing these different aspects of things. And maybe it's not every single time you come to your craft room, but maybe it is. If you're not coming all the time, it's going to look different than if you're coming in every day. If every week you're in your room, right? And then the way that you do things is going to be different. Sometimes it's challenging yourselves to use new products or different products than what you normally do. Sometimes it's doing a challenge or following a sketch, right? So there's all these different little things that we can do. Sometimes it's taking our own work and reevaluating it, like we talked about the last couple of weeks, right? So there's all these different things, and all of this plays into us really, really developing who we are, because I want you guys to know who you are. At the end of the series, I really want you to be able to go, I know who I am, and this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to go about my creative journey, my creative process. And it's not because I want to go with the tides and go with the group of, what everybody else is doing. I want to do my own thing. And it might be that it's with the crowd, but it might not be. So, and I know I've talked about this, and I've talked to other crafters. And so I know Dina Wakely shared this with me and it resonated. And I think of some of the other ladies that I'm really inspired by who have just different styles. And it seems like there's this process of like really settling into who you are. And maybe your process looks really similar to other people. Like right now, mixed media is super big, right? Everybody's doing mixed media. And I know I posted a video on my own channel, and there was some crafters who were like, oh, I see everybody doing it, but it really intimidates me. Or I'm really scared because I don't know what products to use, right? And I hear this a lot. But, you get all these crafters who are super excited because they love paper crafting, and they see this new style. It's not really new, right? None of this stuff is new. I hope that everybody knows that, right? And I think sometimes we know that. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves, none of this stuff is new. When I talk to ladies who have been in this industry or have been creating for decades, I am just amazed at how much things haven't changed. It just ebbs and flows, right? And that is how it's supposed to be, right? This is how it is in the outside world too. Like different things become popular, different elements become cool, different motifs become cool. And it's just ebbs and flows. And it's because different people are driving the car at different times in this crafty, roadway that we are in. So there's going to be times where the style that you do is going to be super cool and popular, and there's going to be times when it's not. And no matter what, as long as you are enjoying the process and you are still being you and you are accomplishing the goals or the things that you want to accomplish when you come to your craft room or craft table, then it really doesn't matter. But we all should have this desire to grow and to want to play, right? I mean, I think just the fact that we all like to put paper to paper and find pretty things and match it up or use something different. Like the fact that we all want to touch something tactile, or we want to put together something that really shows texture, whether or not you're a paper crafter, like in the actual, like I'm actually using paper, or you're a digital crafter, like you might want to mimic those elements that you see. Actually, I'd really love to have someone who does mostly digital scrapbooking, and like so that we can connect around this way, because I want us to like come together as a community and really help support each other, instead of trying to say, oh, this style is bad or this style is weird, or I can't relate to them, when really there are so many things within the paper crafting world that we all can relate to, because we all love pretty things and we all want to make something pretty, right? So how do we do that? How do we make what we make meaningful? How do we continue to grow as a creative person, just grow in your own identity, grow in your own style, grow in your skills as a crafter, right? Because the more you do something, the more your skills get better. So think about, when was the last time I did something or I made something that I had fun doing it. If you are coming to your room or your table and you're not enjoying what you're doing, there is something wrong. So you have to think about, why am I not enjoying it? What can I do to change that? And hopefully some of these things that we talk about throughout this episode and a couple of, whether it's the next episode or other episodes, hopefully you guys will come out of it with some ideas of things that you can do if you're in that spot. But you might not even be in that spot, right? You might be in the spot of, I have so much stuff, I'm just so overwhelmed, or something, right? Like that. I think sometimes there's just so much I want to do that I get, and I'm like, if I haven't taken the time throughout the week to really clear my head of the mess, I have a really hard time getting at that table, and I don't get accomplished what I would like to get accomplished. But at the end of the day, I think to myself, did I have fun doing? So like last week, I knew I wanted to get some layouts done, but I also I've been having such a fun time just playing, and I think it's because it's been a little bit more stressful. I've been going back to work now, so I work part-time and I do this, and it's towards the end of the school year, so I'm trying to get these all things on top of having this amazing business that I absolutely love. So I'm giving a lot of creative thought to that aspect of things. So it's like I have all these plates juggling, right? And so sometimes I don't have time during the week as I come to the weekend when I'm creating, because that's the time I set for myself. So it's like, are you setting a time for yourself to even get there? Are you giving yourself time to, when you get to your space, that you can actually do things? I know there's a ton of ladies who go to crafts, and so they prepare, they get their stuff all ready, you get it all ready. You get all your supplies all ready. You think about what projects you want to do. So you build kits, or you get everything ready, even if it's just the thought. So these are the things that you're preparing yourself to do so that you can get accomplished some of these things, so that you can create and have fun and feel like you've accomplished something. But sometimes the accomplishment is that I played. And so for me, that's one of the biggest things that I have to change and shift my mindset. Is like, if I had a busy weekend, I didn't have time to really sit down and go, okay, what exactly do I want to create? How do I get myself prepared? Because when you have a lot of stuff going on in your life, right, sometimes it's not that easy to just sit down. Now, if you're someone who crafts nonstop, so I like to preface this with like the old craft scrapbooker Hannah and the new scrapbooker Hannah. And I say that because how I create now is so different than how Hannah used to create. One, Hannah used to create almost basically every day. Every night I would go to my craft room after my kids would go to bed, or my craft space, because I used to scrapbook in my living room when I first started. And every night I would basically make a layout or make something. Sometimes I would finish it, sometimes I wouldn't. A lot of times I would finish something. So I would do that. I would work on voiceovers after, so I'd get that done. Then I'd do the video that maybe I did the day before or a couple of days before. So I was always working on multiple things, right? When I was on design teams, some of the times it would be staying up really late to make sure that I got my blog post done, because this was in the time when we did blog posts. And it wasn't just all about the videos. Like, yeah, I did the video and they loved that, but they really wanted the blog post part, right? So that was crazy, right? But I was always doing something almost every day. I would walk past my desk when my kids were younger, now I'm in this beautiful room and I absolutely love it. I mean, I see this board back here and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it, right? Am I done with it? No. And that's okay. But anyway, so when my kids were a little bit younger, and during the day, I homeschool. So during the day I would homeschool. I'd walk past my craft area. I'd kind of see like some of the stuff that was on my desk, or if I was getting a kit, I'd get like really excited because my kit was coming in. And so my goal was to get everything done kind of during the day. Like sometimes I would do stuff like photos and that kind of thing, and maybe social mediaing and talking to people online. So I was doing these things like without even thinking about like creating space in my head for ideas, being inspired by talking to other people, for either sharing my work or looking at other people's work. So now it's like things are a lot different because this Hannah has teenage kids who require different kinds of interactions. Like we just do things differently now. This Hannah has to work. She also has a different lifestyle where I actually spend time with my husband, where before I didn't have time with my husband alone, one-on-one all the time. Sometimes we did, but it wasn't like a regular thing. He had his things that he did. I had my things. Now it's different. And so now I set time aside when we have certain days that we do things. And then there's other days that we have our own thing. Either he's working or we have other things that are planned. So my days are chunked up differently, right? More of me is needed outside of this room. And that's okay, because that's kind of how life is, right? We're not all going to be able to be a Instagram scrapbooker or a YouTube scrapbooker or paper crafter. As much as we would all love that, we're not all able to be that. Maybe some of you don't even have that desire. So it's like, think about where you're at. How do I create within my own space? Not what Susie Q is doing on Instagram or Jane on YouTube. Not what they're doing. Yes, you can take what they're doing and like use aspects of that, but I want you to think about like my life. How is my routine? How am I going to fit into my routine? Ways to think about what I want to get accomplished when I get in my room so that I'm prepared. Just like when you go to a crop and you want to get all these things done, you start doing all these preparations ahead of time. How in your schedule can you create that space to get your mind ready and prepared to come to your table so you can get things accomplished? And think about, what kind of goals do I want for this session that I'm at my desk? So when I come in, I think about like, okay, these are these few things that I want to do. And now that I'm working and I have so many other things that I'm doing outside of just creating for myself or creating for my channels, I don't give myself that many goals because I want that place. I want to give that space, right? I want to give my creativity space. But sometimes that's not how it is for people, right? Some people, they need a lot of things to do to create that energy and that creativity. So what is it that fuels you when you come to your table, and what can you do ahead of time to be prepared? And then think about, what is it that keeps me from just playing freely with the supplies that I have? I know that when I do challenges for myself where I have to make myself use something that I don't care about, like eyelets, guys, brads, washi tape. Like, I have a ton of washi tape. You can see it all up there. It's super pretty. I really don't care about using it. And so when I have challenges where that stuff is like the main thing, I'm like, I start tuning stuff out and it becomes not fun and I don't want to play with it freely. So and sometimes it's walking away and giving yourself room to think about things outside of the box, right? So how do you think outside of the box for using your stuff freely? Like, is it that you're forcing yourself to use things that you don't care? Is it that you're not allowing yourself to use things that you don't care about? Sometimes for me, it's that I am not thinking outside of the box. Like, just a couple of weeks ago, someone was using washi tape as like a mask. And I was like, why am I not doing that? They had the washi tape and they were stamping all around it. And then they used watercolor and some other stuff. And they created, and then they pulled the washi tape up and it was beautiful. And I was like, why did I never think about that? I also want you to think about how important your creative growth is to you. So is that a priority, or is that something that is just kind of on the back burner for you? And any answer that you give for any of these questions are specific to you. So maybe growth isn't your biggest goal, but maybe your biggest goal is to have fun, to do these things. And as a result, growth will happen. So I want you, sometimes it's thinking differently about what you want and your reason why. Like I said, thinking outside the box. I feel like this episode should be creating outside of the box, right? So, playing doesn't have to be disorderly. So I want you to think about it this way. When we are creating, it doesn't mean that it's a free for all. It doesn't mean that you have to use a blank page, or that it's just like all or nothing. That is not what I'm talking about in this episode in relation to play and grow, like in this creative growth as a creative identity, in your creative identity. It's really getting comfortable in your creative identity and doing things that support that so that growth does happen, right? So this just means being comfortable and dipping your toe a little bit into being out of your comfort zone, if that makes sense. So you're just doing just something a little bit. And it's not every single time. It's stretching yourself as a creative person, right? It's not that that's your main goal, but that's happening as a byproduct, right? So a lot of these things are just byproducts of us really just sinking in, being really comfortable with who we are and going, you know what? I don't care. I don't care that Susie on YouTube is using washi tape all the time. I don't like washi tape, but I can use paper like she uses washi tape, right? So it's just using the things that you love and making it you. How do I take and play what somebody else is doing? How do I take that inspiration and flip it and make it me? That's really what this episode and this is about, is being comfortable with who we are and using that as the guide and letting everything else just be an inspiration. And how am I going to twist it to be me? So I want you to think about when you are looking on Instagram, when you are watching videos on YouTube, when you are on Facebook and you're checking out in the groups other people's work, how do I take what that person did and have it be me? How can I do that? What is one thing in there that is me that I can use in one of my next projects? So maybe that's going to be our little goal for the week. Because I always like to give you guys something to do, because I really want you guys to work at figuring out who you are and just being comfortable in that. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. honestly, I know I'm dragging this out. Maybe some of you guys feel like I'm dragging it out, but I really want you guys to just be comfortable with who you are, because you are who you are. Your experience have made you that way. Your goals have made you that way. What you like to take photos of and your life situation has made you who you are. And I want you to stand firm in that and know that I love to create, and this is all of this stuff together is jumbled together in our little pot of coffee and come out, and here's you, right? I want it to be you. I want you to feel comfortable knowing that as I'm sharing my work or as I'm putting it in the album, I was true to who I am. Right? Whether your style is changing or not, whether you're new or old, being comfortable with who you are when you go to that desk is going to just make your experience so much better, and you are going to grow. The byproduct is growth. The byproduct is being fulfilled instead of feeling like you're getting taken, like stuff is being taken from you. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself, what do I love using over and over and over again? I know we've asked these questions, but what do I really like? What is the one thing that if I had to pick one or two things, what are the one or two things that I absolutely just go back and forth over and over and over again? It's like, I absolutely love using paints on my pages. It doesn't matter if it's watercolor, acrylic. How do I do that in some capacity on every single layout? Does it happen every single time? No. But sometimes, and this year, one of the things that I've been doing is making like the embellishment part, having that be the part. Sometimes it's just adding splatters with paint. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated to be who you are isn't complicated. It's just really settling into it and really enjoying it and going, what do I love? What is it that I love? What makes me happy when I use this thing? And it's not that you have to do it every single time you create, but doing those things is going to make the experience so much sweeter. Right? How can I stretch the things that I use okay, how can I fix something that I didn't like without starting over? So, and I say that. So sometimes we do something and we don't like how it's going. How do we come at it to fix a problem? So when we have a problem at our desk, how do we fix it? Sometimes it does mean starting all over again. Sometimes it means, I'm going to cover this up. I say this to a lot of people with scrapbooking. Gesso is your best friend. And if you don't like it, just put gesso on it. Put white paint on it. There's times where I've just put a piece of paper over top of it. But also, like, when something doesn't turn out the way I wanted it, how do I pivot from there? And I know we talked about that last time. Like, how do I do that? Like, is that an easy thing for me? Like, how do I be easy on myself in the times that I didn't enjoy something, right? So, and this is part of the learning and growing and playing, right? Is being okay, like giving yourself some gratitude. It's like, okay, I didn't like that, so I'm gonna fix it. It's like, it is okay to fix a problem on your layout that you didn't like. If you didn't like the title, go back. It's like there's so many times where I realize like I didn't do something. Or there's times where I've been putting layouts away and something fell off and I had to go find it and put it back on. or I noticed something that I did that I messed up. And so I just go and fix it. Like, how do you fix the problems? Or how do you use a technique in a different way? Like, how do you do these things or stretch what I have? Like, how do you stretch what you have? Like, all these little things are just challenges that you can give yourself. And I think that's one of the things of playing is like, how do I challenge myself with the stuff that I already have? How do I make the best use out of the stuff that I already have, the knowledge that I already have? It doesn't always have to be a product. It could be a thought, right? How do I stretch that? How do I change it up? How do I merge doing new things with being me? And I know we've talked all about these things, right? It's like keeping elements of yourself while you're still growing. Like, so how do you do this gracefully? And these are questions that you just ask for yourself. Because what your answer is and my answer is going to be completely different. What Susie on YouTube's answer is might not be the answer that you have. And it's sometimes it's just letting go of what anybody else says. I know I've talked about this. I'm going to say it again. Megan talked about how her ex didn't like busy papers. He didn't like the busyness on her layout. So she would shy away from using papers that she absolutely loved. So they sat in her room and they get dusty or they, you forget about them. It's like, how do you use the things that you love in your room? It's like, how do you be okay? And sometimes it's adjusting the way that we come to our room. Sometimes it's just settling in. So let's settle in and know that also, as much as we want to document things, as much as we want to remember things, scrapbooking also is about exploration, right? So this it's not always the hierarchy. And once again, I'm going to say what is one way for one person is for sure another way. And it doesn't have to stay the same. I was just listening to a short from Alice Bowl, who I absolutely want to have her on the podcast. And she was talking about how she felt like she was not documenting and journaling on her projects the way that her layouts, the way that she wanted to. So she decided there's a problem. How do I fix it? And this was that she had went from, I don't care about that, I want pretty things, to I need more. So it's in this journey as we're finding ourselves, as we're settling into ourselves and realizing and going, I want more, and being okay with that, and then going there and getting it. So how do you do that? Right? But it's about exploration. It's about exploring these things that we feel when we're in our craft room. Just like Alice was saying that she felt like she wasn't giving the appropriate documentation on, or I say that she wasn't journaling about these photos the way that she wanted to. It's like maybe at first it was okay, but then as she gets going, she realized that she needed more. Sometimes we all feel like we need to change it up. We need more of something. We need less of something. So how do we do this? Right? How do we reframe our mind to continually be okay with the change in which we are going, down the road that we are going? How do we be okay with that? Well, you only are okay with that if you're okay with yourself, right? And so this is a lot of what like art therapy is kind of about, is just allowing yourself to be you, and a lot of it is just like, how does it feel? And it's weird because sometimes we get very, like, you can get easily logical. And if you're a logical person, like how you feel when you do a page might not be like just ingrained in you. It's not intuitive, right? Or if you're a structure person, right? If you are a structure person, and being like, just letting go might not be easy, right? So there's like different types of people. So it's taking who you are as a person and translating it onto your projects. And how do I let the process be the product? So the product is the end, right? What we create is this end. So how do we let the process be the whole thing? Because that's really what the series is about, honestly, right? It's us and the process. It's not what we create. That's the byproduct, right? The product is the process in which we are learning and growing into it, like just naturally, because we know who we are and we're just using the things that we love and the things around us to create, right? What happens when we don't like what we're doing? Are we being great? I talked a little bit just a couple of minutes ago about this. Like, how do we have grace for ourselves in those moments? And what's a small risk that I can take that is going to lead me further or closer to the goals and who I am when I create? So this is more of a complicated type of a question or topic to think about, right? So sometimes taking small risks seems like a really big risk, and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes it means trying something new, like a new product. Sometimes it means settling into a project or something, right? Let's just say, like me, you have a really hard time finishing like a mini album. I just have a hard time finishing a mini album. I think it's because I get really bored. So I feel like I just need to jump around. Like, the old creative Hannah did not realize that she had ADHD as bad as she did. I think because I was crafting all the time, and I was doing so many different things, I was not bored enough to know that I had ADHD. And now I can recognize, oh, I have ADHD, right? That's why I can't finish these mini albums, because it just takes me so long. So how do I take that small risk to finish it? How do I do that? How do I do that in a way that is conducive to who I am? So what do I need to do to get there? And a lot of this is really just about brainstorming and thinking about it differently, like switching our perspective, right? From I have to do it this way. So some of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about this episode, because I do want to do an episode where I talk with someone who does like a lot of art stuff, because I absolutely love that. And I think that that's an avenue of being creative and being ourselves, like different ways that we can do different type of art type stuff. Right. So my hope is that we'll have somebody like that. But I also want to talk about like challenges and stuff. So, because this is one good way that we can kind of flush out and make things ourselves, right? Because we're already doing these challenges, or we're already using things that we have. Like, the challenges aren't necessarily about it might be other people, but it's about taking something concrete and making it us. So one of the things that I was thinking about, like I was saying, is challenges are super cool. So in a really awesome way to kind of reframe who we are, what we love, and using somebody else's ideas. Name some challenges and things that I like to do that kind of help me in this process of playing and growing, and just a way for me to use my brain differently. And this is really helpful, especially when I don't have time to really plan much for myself, like a ton of goals, or when I'm not just wanting to let loose, because that is a little bit different than what I'm talking about. So how can we organize something but it not be super organized, right? And I think challenges are one of those great ways. So doing like kits, so whether it be a stash kit, picking an old kit that you haven't finished, using like a mood board to make a kit. One challenge that I also like to do is to just use a mood board or an inspiration piece. Something like sometimes just even one photo of something that I found on Pinterest is really cool. Another way that I like to challenge myself is to take a technique or a process that I have seen someone do, like an art type of thing, and translate that into something on a layout. I know one of the layouts that I have coming up, I seen a lady on Instagram using paint, and she put a strip of paint and then she put water on the top and the bottom. So the paint would go up on the top where the water was. And so she's using like a wash or something, type of like a wash technique. And she was doing it differently with different colors and stuff. And the top would look a little bit different than the bottom and stuff. So I wanted to recreate something like that and play. So the playing part was doing that aspect. So taking like a technique. I talked about seeing someone use washi tape as a mask. So even something simple like that. So it doesn't have to be a super complicated thing like making a kit, where that totally is a challenge that you can do, but it could be something smaller than that, like using a kit that you already have, or using a collection that you already own. I love recipe challenges. Those are all super fun, where you get a list of different things to use on a layout. But honestly, even just challenging yourself to use one thing from your stash, or one thing that you haven't used in a really long time, or one thing that you absolutely love. How do I do this? Rediscover Your Stash does this every month. They pick one thing, like stickers, or sometimes it's really broad, like mixed media. And you just use all of that thing, and you create a layout or a project that uses just this. Sometimes it's challenging yourself to do something that you do on a layout on a different project, like taking mixed media and doing those on project life cards. Me and a lady named Kelly, a Froggy, oh gosh, what's her handle on Instagram? Froggy something. Anyway, we did a challenge where we did that. We did mixed media on Project Life. I never had did Project Life before that. So that was my introduction to doing Project Life. We were like, hey, let's do a challenge together. So every week we would do mixed media on Project Life stuff. It was super fun. And it's not very complicated. So I created like cards. And actually that was something I was thinking about recently. Is like, why don't I do this even on like a regular card? So like these are ideas that I'm packing into my head, but sometimes we just pack these ideas in and we don't actually accomplish them. So the goal is, so I think that's what I want your goal for this week to be, your thing to do, is to pick a challenge yourself on something. It doesn't have to be big. It can be big, and follow through with it. Take one of those ideas that you've collected off of Pinterest, off of Instagram, off of YouTube, and actually do it. And I know sometimes we do this. Like Facebook, we're really good about this. We do tons of hops and challenges, like scrap lifting yourself or scrap lifting somebody else. I can't talk now. Are also great ways to challenge yourself. Using a sketch as a type of challenge. So all these little things are things that you can do to play, right? And depending on who you are and what you love to do, it looks different, right? So taking these things and making it you, right? Whether you're taking something from Pinterest, I know Crystal Barrett, she does a Pinterest board challenge. She has one coming up, I think in July, and she just takes the pins that you've pinned, and that's what you create layouts about. So we in this community have no problem with challenging yourself, right? But sometimes it's following through with those challenges. Like, do you actually accomplish them? Because I can tell you, there's so many times where I see everybody doing all these different things, and then I collect them instead of using them. So let's use the things. You know, when you're in your space for that time, challenge yourself to do one challenge, right? So let's get it from not just on the pin boards. And maybe your problem is you always do challenges, right? So this is where we're going to talk later on another episode. And I don't know, I want it to be part of the series, but it might just end up being another podcast episode. I want to talk about just playing like art therapy, playing with mixed media, playing with doing art journaling. So just playing with your products. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Play with your products, play with the techniques. How do you do it? Like, today, I wanted to focus more on challenges of doing this. So how are you challenging yourself to use the products and the techniques and the things that you have in your own space that are you've collected them. So another one of my challenges is, if you have things in your room that you know don't serve you, why are you keeping them? And I want you to think about that. Maybe you don't have to do anything this week, but I'm hoping by the end of this series that you will really take a hard look at the things that you have in your room and in your space, and the things that are not serving you. Why are you keeping them? And I hope you get rid of them. Maybe it's just putting them in a box and putting them away for another time. Maybe they'll serve you later. Maybe they won't. Maybe you can buy them later if they serve a need later. Maybe they can serve someone else. And I say this because I gave up at first I gave up my manual die cutter. I had that for a while because I was doing Pink Fresh Studio had their kits and they had dies, like almost a stamp or a die in almost every single little kit. I absolutely loved it. It was super fun. I got one for Christmas and I used it a little bit, and then I didn't really use it. And I pulled it out like for holidays, for cards or something. And I would do a whole bunch of dies, like cut dies, and I still have them. I don't really use them. And I realized I'm not really using these. And my friend, she was wanting to get into using dies. And I was like, hey, I have this old machine. If you want to use it, I have not used it a whole bunch of times, but if you want it, you can have it. And I gave it to her. And then I stopped scrapbooking. You guys know this. I've talked about it so many times. So I stopped scrapbooking for a while. And then when I stopped, a friend at my church, she started making cards, and I was like, you know what? I have this electronic silhouette die cutting machine, and I don't know when I'm going to use it because I knew I wasn't in my room. I was honest with myself. And I think that's what this little story is about, right? So I was honest with myself, and I was like, I'm not using this. It's not serving me anymore. And honestly, it wasn't a machine that I absolutely love to use all the time. I would use it. I made it work. I did fun stuff with it sometimes, but it wasn't something that I always felt like I wanted to rush to use. So I was like, hey, would you like this? Because I think maybe it could be something that you could use. I'm like, it's just the machine. You're going to have to get new mats. I'm like, you might even need to get blades and stuff, but here's the machine. And I'm like, I know it's a little bit older now, and it's been through a move and stuff across the ocean. And I gave it to her, and she was super happy, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love it. And she loves it because she can just die cut simple things like hearts and other stuff like that for cards. Super easy. And she loved it. And it's serving her, right? And I say that because sometimes we hold on to things in our room that don't serve us anymore. And through this process, I hope that you guys realize that like this whole process is about figuring out the things, who you are and the things that are going to serve you in your craft journey, right? And letting go of those things. And that's part of the maturity of knowing who you are is I'm not going to use this. Do I wish that I didn't give my silhouette? Of course, because now I'm crafting and I'm like, I could use this for other things now. And maybe eventually I'll get another one and I'll find one that maybe is more of what I want, or I'll just have it and I'll use it sparingly. I don't know. But for now, I'm not going to worry about getting it. And, you know, I've also, like, I've started going through, I haven't taken as much time because I like to spend time at my desk. But, like, there's times where I've been going through my stuff and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not using this pack of books. It's one of the things the reasons that I stopped buying paper packs just entirely, because I realized that I have these paper packs and I'm not really using them. So I've been culling all of that stuff now because I'm like, it's just not serving me anymore. So my challenge for myself this year is culling through all the things that I have stocked up that is not serving me anymore, because I'm in a whole new season in my scrapbooking journey and I know who I am. And so now I just want to have fun with it. And I don't want to hold on to things that aren't going to be used. It's also why this year I've challenged myself to not buy stuff, or very limitedly, I should say. When I went to the Scrapbooking Cards Expo, I did buy a few things for myself because I haven't been buying a whole lot of supplies or like things, except for the shop, which is a little bit different. But it's like I really haven't been buying that much. So I felt like, you know, I'll treat myself. But like, honestly, I have so much stuff. And I think it's like, as hard as it is not to buy stuff, it's been so awesome because I've learning how to use things, or learning how to love the things that I love in my room without feeling bad, right? So we all have different goals and challenges that we need to give ourselves for who we are in that season. So I want you guys to think about that. And I want you to think about giving yourself permission to just play for who you are, to just use things that you love, to enjoy your creative process. So like, how are you enjoying that, right? Are you allowing yourself to enjoy the process? Because a lot of us, that's why we do this. We do it because we love creating something, and it does something for our souls and our spirits and our and our minds. It's one of the things that I have found with my autoimmune issues is that as I've gotten older, and especially I noticed it a lot since I stopped crafting, is that I have a lot harder time with memory now. And I know that that's just something that comes along with the autoimmune issue that I have. And so another one of my challenges is to just play, to just make sure that I'm doing these creative things, because I want to keep my mind as sharp as possible, because I love giving to my family. I love giving and creating things. And if I can do these two things and they serve me and they fill my cup, then I'm going to be a better Hannah, right? And all these different aspects. So that's what my desire for you guys is to be a better you. So this week, I want you to think outside of the box and challenge yourself to do something that maybe you haven't challenged yourself to do. And I want you to think about your creative process and how do you use you and be you in that process? How do you take someone else's stuff and make it you? So that's the playing that I want you guys to do this week. And thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for joining me in this series. Like, I can't believe we're on episode 2020. Next week, we are going to be talking with a guest. So I'm hoping the next, I have some guest ideas and it's just getting the timing all perfect. So we may or may not be kind of continuing the series in a little bit of a different way. So that's probably how it's going to end up being. But I've just had so much fun, you guys, going through the series and really just focusing on how do we make this hobby that we love serve us, and how do we let it fill our cups? How do we let it define who we are? And some of it is figuring out who we are, and some of it is letting go of what other people want us to be. So, and don't forget to know your reason why. If you don't know your reason why, I really implore you to do that. I think the starting point is knowing who you are. So I'll talk to you guys next week. I'll be back here at 9 a.m. And hopefully at some point Megan will be back for a guest spot. I don't know. She still has plenty of stuff that is going on in her life. I so miss her, but I am so glad that you guys are joining me and that you guys are sticking around and you guys are commenting and liking and subscribing. And thank you guys, everyone who are listening on different podcast platforms. I really appreciate the more people who like and comment or do do the rating system on those platforms. It really helps get us out so other people can find us, because my biggest goal is to provide inspiration to the crafting community in a different way, but in a form that does not cost money, because I don't think that we should have to spend a ton of money on these hobbies that we love. I don't know about you, but I'm in a season where I really don't want to spend a whole lot of extra money that I don't feel like it's deserved. And even though I absolutely love spending time in my craft room and it is so good for me, I also don't have a ton of extra money that I can just be putting in. So how do I get the most out of it? And so I know that you guys are in the same, many of you guys are in the same place. And I want you guys to have things that you don't feel like you have to pay money for, but you're going to get solid inspiration. I don't want you to feel like you're giving something up by not paying. So there'll be plenty of other ways that if you want to support me and the things that I am doing, if that is something that you want, always go over to my shop. I have a ton of fun stuff over there. I actually am opening up some of my stuff on Etsy as well. So if that's a better place for you, though, honestly, my website is probably the best place to do it, because at the craftymavengetaway.com, a lot more of the proceeds go to me. Etsy takes a ton, but I thought it would be really fun to put some of the junk journaly type stuff on there. So, and some of the sequin mixes, but we still have a ton of stuff. There's kits that you can order from month to month, or you can just order one, or like I said, or I think I've said before, I also have just some of the products from the kits in the store. Not all of them are in there, but many of them are. So, if there's something in the kit that you just want to get your hands on, check that out. I try to add as much as I can each month. So new stuff is coming in each month on the store. So if you want to support me, that is the best way that you can do that. If you don't, and you just want to absorb all of the stuff, the content that I'm giving out for free, feel free to do that. It is not necessary to buy from me. Just your time and listening, and like I said, thumbs ups and sharing. It's more than enough for me. I feel like I'm going to do this anyway, so. But I just appreciate you guys so much. This community has been so awesome and so encouraging, and I couldn't ask for a better community to be a part of. So I am super thankful and grateful to do what I love, even if it's just on the side, and if I never can leave my job, just like I would never expect anybody else to, because honestly, we all do this for fun. So have a great day, have a great week, and do something different to challenge yourself this week. Bye.